Welcome to Ebeledike'S journal, where we have embarked on a journey of exploring an exciting and closer relationship with the Lord. Do join this boat to get better clarity on issues of life.
Hi, my name is Joy Ebeledike, and you're welcome once again to Ebeledike'S journal. In our last teaching, we started looking at God's plan to deliver man from the satanic nature and the covenants he made with man in order to accomplish that purpose. I said we're going to look at three of these covenants: the Abrahamic covenant, the old covenant, and then the new covenant. And we actually started looking at the Abrahamic covenant. Today, we're going to continue looking at the Abrahamic covenant in more details, because that covenant actually is a very important and strategic covenant in the story of man's redemption. So in Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 to 4, God said to Abraham, "Get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house, to a land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I'll bless those who bless you, and I'll curse him who curses you. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken to him. God restated this promise in several other passages in the book of Genesis to Abraham as well as his sons. And in fact, in Genesis chapter 22, verse 18, God said to Abraham, "And through your offspring, all nations on earth will be blessed because you have obeyed me." So, God appeared to a man who hitherto had not known him, who had not had contact with him before, a man who was a worshiper of idols, and gave him a command and a promise. And this man obeyed God, believed God, and obeyed God. Now, certain things stand out in this covenant. One, it was an unconditional covenant in the sense that only God had a responsibility to act. Abraham was not required to do anything in that covenant. The fulfillment of the promises of that covenant depended solely on God's faithfulness. And the fact that the fulfillment of that covenant depended solely on God is buttressed by the practice of cutting covenants in the ancient world. In the ancient world, a covenant was made official by cutting an animal into two and placing the flesh of the animal on both sides of the ground. And both parties involved in the covenant will then walk through the pieces of the flesh of the animal. In the case of the covenant that God made with Abraham, God instructed Abraham to get the animals. Abraham knew what to do. He split the flesh of the animal into two. And then God caused Abraham to fall asleep. And while Abraham was in deep sleep, God passed through the pieces of the flesh of the animals in the form of a smoking fire pot and a blazing torch. So the fulfillment of this covenant was placed solely on God. Abraham did not have to do anything. Abraham did not do anything. You can read more about this story in Genesis chapter 15. The second remarkable aspect of this covenant is that Abraham, who was the son of an idolater, like I've said before, who had never had any contact with God, believed God and obeyed him. Abraham believed that God will bless him, that God will make him a great nation, that God will deliver the world through his seed, meaning Jesus Christ. So what exactly do we mean when we say that Abraham believed God? Abraham's belief was not just a careless or mental assent to God's promise, which is, what most of us do when we say we believe God. But Abraham was certain. Abraham was absolutely sure that God will keep to his promise. Abraham was so certain that God will keep to his promise that he was ready to kill his only son Isaac at God's command. So, let's try to situate Abraham's position. Assuming you have been given prophecy that you would have 2 grandchildren while you have only one son. And then when you're 60 or thereabouts, another prophecy comes along saying that you should send your only son to the Sambisa forests to fight the bandits or the Boko Haram. I wonder how many of us would obey this second prophecy. But Abraham was ready to obey God. According to Hebrews chapter 11, verse 17, it reads, Abraham reasoned that if Isaac died, God was able to bring him back to life again. So Abraham had so much faith in God that he believed that since God had promised him that he would be a great nation through Isaac, then even if he killed Isaac, that God will bring Isaac back to life in order to fulfill his promise. This unqualified faith in him by a previous worshiper of false gods excited and thrilled God. And I tell you, God is excited, God is thrilled when we have such implicit faith in him, not minding the circumstances. So in Genesis chapter 15, verse 6, we read that Abraham believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. Because he believed God, God declared Abraham a righteous man. God ignored Abraham's weaknesses and mistakes. God declared Abraham free from condemnation because God could see his heart. We can see this from Abraham's dealing with King Abimelech. Remember, Abraham told Sarah to tell King Abimelech that she was his sister and not his wife. Sarah did this, but who did God take his anger out on for this infraction? On King Abimelech, whom he said to, you are already dead if you don't let her go. So the fulfillment of the Abrahamic covenant depended solely on God's faithfulness and Abraham's absolute belief in God's promises. Abraham was not required to do anything. The Abrahamic covenant was not performance-based. This is very important to note. It did not depend on performance by man. So the Abrahamic covenant was the beginning of God's covenant of grace that found its fulfillment in Jesus Christ. Thank you for listening to me. God bless you. See you next time.
Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell to watch more of Joy Ebeledike'S videos. If you are new to this channel, please go back and listen from episode 1 to get a clearer picture of subsequent teachings. You can also visit blog.joyebeledike.com to read more of her teachings on practical and loving relationship with the Lord. Never forget, you are the object of God's love and affection.